So the last presentation is by CISG. We will have Emanuela Castaman and Antonello Donini. Emanuela Castaman is in charge of analytical and training sector of the Italian Gemological Institute. She graduated at Milano Bicocca and since 2006 has been working at CISG as an analyst. And she's also a teacher in training courses for the jewelry sector. Over the years, she acquired experience and knowledge in the interpretation of specific analytical issues, EX, EDR, for example, and UV. The topic of her presentation is Certainties and Uncertainties in Gemological Material Analysis. The lack of uniformity in the wording of in the definition of the materials requires further investigation, and we need to update our knowledge. And I invite Emanuela Castaman to come over to the podium.
Allora, buon pomeriggio a tutti. Difficile.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is difficult to talk after listening to this last presentation. That for sure gave us all a lot of food for thought. However, the world of gems has some problems to come to terms with. And we have understood that all over the world there are much more significant problems than knowing the geographical origin or a possible treatment of the gemstone. So let's quickly go through history. Since ancient times, men have always tried to modify the matter with treatments and methods to transform the gemstones found in nature into something even more precious, believing that a mine could produce more beautiful gemstones than the other mines, more transparent, more colorful. So this afternoon we will talk about origins and treatments. The geographical origin is today one of the most difficult topics for our industry. Most people, unfortunately, do not understand the complexity of the determination process. Some take advantage of this lack of understanding and trade gemstones, cheating about their provenance. The trade of colored gemstones requires laboratories to be able to tell them with a 100% precision the origin of the gemstones, and they want consistency amongst all the different gemological labs. But unfortunately, the science is not able to do this. We're confronted with a gemstone, and we have to try and go back into its history. Science alone cannot even get close to this for some gemstones, specifically for sapphires, i.e. blue corundums. So labs have to trust the experience of their gemologists and their familiarity with the gem material coming from the numerous deposits all over the world. This requires dozens of years of work. This is the reason why all gem labs stress that the determination of the geographical origin is an opinion. Every lab will give its own opinion based on a database. We're not talking about unquestionable facts. There are opinions, and there will be differences in the different certificates and in the different reports coming from different laboratories. Precious gemstones often come from remote areas, and some of these mines have a long history or may not even exist anymore. All this increases the interest and the palatability of a certain gemstone. That will therefore increase in value. The geographical origin can be an indicator, therefore, also the rarity and beauty of a given gemstone. Some deposits have lasted only for a short period of time, therefore their supply is limited. An example of this is the Kashmir sapphire. Historically, it is believed that some deposits have a better quality of certain gemstones, for instance, Myanmar rubies. This can be true, but perception is everything. A Burma origin is more desirable and more precious. The first prerequisite for a lab to be able to issue a certificate on the geographical origin of a gemstone is adequate scientific equipment. This is very expensive, therefore small labs cannot afford this. But nevertheless, if a lab wants to certify the origin, it is necessary to have the competencies of gemologists as well as adequate equipment. The second prerequisite is expert gemologists, with a wide knowledge of the material coming from the different mines all over the world. And this is the most difficult part of the equation. Because, of course, you can buy the equipment. You just need money. But gemologists are not always experienced, and it is difficult to recruit experienced ones because some of them start working for a gemological lab, and that's where they spend the rest of their life. Then it is necessary to have a complete collection of known samples coming from specific mines, and you have to go to those mines and collect your samples as close as possible to the source. Gem deposits refer to geology, not geography, so borders between countries have nothing to do in relation to the place where the gemstone was born. The geological conditions can occur in different countries, and very often they do not follow geographical borders. Some deposits may have unique features, and they can be identified from others. In other cases, this is not the case. Labs, however, have the task and the duty to discriminate, because the trade requires a 100% precision. And sometimes they come to the lab saying, I already know that this gemstone comes from a certain area. The determination of the geographical origin is based on the idea that the precious gemstones coming from different deposits have different features, which is not always the case. Deposits in different countries may produce gems with similar characteristics. Some blue sapphires from Myanmar may have inclusions that are identical to those of sapphires from Sri Lanka. Conversely, in one single country, there can be different deposits of different geology producing different gemstones. For example, most blue sapphires from Madagascar come from metamorphic deposits. Others from basalt deposits, both to be found in Madagascar. So Madagascar's got this issue with two different deposits and different problems. When the determination of the geographical origin started, there were very few deposits, and usually they could be discriminated without a lot of difficulty. But since then, many other deposits have been found. Each one of these deposits started producing commercial precious gemstones, and the issue of the geographical origin became more complicated. Historical deposits have aged or may have become deeper or wider, so their characteristics may also change. What could be obtained in the past with standard gemological tests and microphone is no longer possible today. It is necessary to collect chemical spectroscopic data. As the instruments become more complex, it is necessary to know them better and to interpret their data. Instruments have become much more expensive. Very often, it is necessary to have gemologists with high-level degrees in chemistry, physics, geology, mineralogy. This is particularly true with laser ICP-MS, where continuous calibration is fundamental to analyze different trace elements at lower and lower concentrations. So we need to be more and more precise. Another big issue is the acquisition of reliable samples that have to be tested when putting together a database. But it is possible that these samples are not accurate, and the only way to have reliable samples is to go directly to the mines and collecting them personally. A documentation of how, when, and where the samples have been bought is fundamental to set up a reliable database. A database of this type and the collection of information on samples obliges us sometimes to change what has been generally taken for granted. For instance, the orange fluorescence of the blue sapphire. For a long time, we used to think that this characteristic indicated the origin from Sri Lanka. However, as new deposits were found and more research was carried out, it became clear that orange fluorescence can occur in the blue sapphires coming from different metamorphic deposits of marmor type with a low content of iron. So this characteristic is now known as a useless one to define the geographical origin. Sometimes we do not manage to understand where a gemstone comes from. This may happen because of the overlapping of many features, or maybe because the features do not correspond to what we have in our database. In these cases, we have to say that the origin cannot be determined. And this is the truth. For all these reasons, reports on the geographical origin are an opinion. Some areas can be more easily discriminated, but the determination still is an opinion, based on the rigor of the analysis of all the above-mentioned points. Being an opinion, there are differences between the different labs, specifically when the determination is most difficult, like for sapphires. However, many in this industry believe that these reports are real, and they may be surprised and frustrated by the fact that different labs give different reports about the very same gemstones. Auction houses have understood that when they sell a gemstone with contrasting provenance, they often list all the certificates that have been written down in their catalogue, and the buyer will then decide what to think of the different reports. Some Sri Lanka blue sapphires are almost identical to the Burma sapphires, and for this reason they're called Burman sapphires. Some trading these gemstones call them the lucky Burma and sell them as gemstones from Burma, even though they know that this is not the case. Treatments. Consumers find on the market gemstones that have been treated. A particular gemstone may have been treated or not. Human beings change all crystals because they change their rough shape in faceted shapes that are also polished. These are the routine procedures for the production of precious gemstones. Next to cutting and traditional polishing, however, gemstones can also be treated to change and improve their color or their clarity. On top of this, the process can also change the durability of the gemstones, because these treatments cannot always be seen with the naked eye, and sometimes they're difficult to recognize also by experts. So if you sell a gemstones, you have to describe the treatment procedure the gemstone might have been submitted to. If the treatment is not communicated, a person could think that a certain gemstone is of higher quality and more precious than what it really is. A further challenge resides in the fact that the treatment can be permanent, of long duration or short duration. Gemstones, when treated, can require special care, and we have a glossary that includes the terms that are often used in the nomenclature of the treatment of gemstones, and that you could find when buying precious gemstones. Finally, the treatments of precious gemstones are consistently modified and perfected, and the identification of the new treated gemstones is an important part of the ongoing gemological research. So some treatments are whitening for jade, pearls, and corals, It is obtained making use of a chemical substance to change the color of a gemstone and make it whiter. We often refer to this as the anti-age treatment for the gemstone. Surface coating to change the look of gemstones, applying a color on its posterior surface, or a substance which is used to coat all or part of a gemstone to change its color. Dyeing. Dyes are introduced in the pores of gems or in their fractures to change their color. Fractures are sometimes purposely carried out by heating the gemstone so that the material can absorb the dye. So fractures are caused so that the dye can penetrate in the fractures and give color to the gemstone. This is done in pearls, corals, turquoise, ruby, and emeralds. Filling of fractures or cavities. This can be done making use of glass, resin, wax, or oil to improve the clarity of the material, the aspect, and the stability of the gems, or in some cases also to add weight. This is done predominantly for rubies, emeralds, and diamonds. Heat treatment. A high temperature is applied to the gemstone to change its color and clarity. This is done for amber, corindons, berylliums, quartzes, tanzanite, topaz, tourmaline, and zirconium. HPHT treatment, well known for diamonds, heating of a diamond at a high temperature under high pressure to remove or change the color. In the last few years, a similar treatment has also been used on corindons, specifically on sapphires. Impregnation. The surface of a porous gemstones is permeated by a polymer, wax, or plastic so that it is more durable and looks better. Turquoise, lapis lazuli, and jade. Irradiation. The gemstone is exposed to an artificial source of radiation to change its color. This is sometimes followed by heat treatment to further change the color. The second step is also known as combined treatment. This is done on diamonds, corindons, quartzes, topazes, and pearls. Laser drilling. This method is no longer very popular, but it used to be applied making use of a laser to produce, to try and remove dark inclusions in diamonds to make them of a better clarity grade. And then last but not least, diffusion. Permeation of some elements in the atomic reticle or lattice of a gemstone with the purpose of changing its color. This is done frequently in corindons. So you should always ask for a certificate that explains the provenance and the treatments. As you have seen, there are many, many different types of treatments, and very few gemstones are not treated. And it is only right to know about the origin of the gemstone you're buying. If you have the certificate of a gemological lab, you are more sure about it rather than just listening to what the trader is telling you. Thank you.